Well, Kary, you and I, we frequent a lot of the same circles. I think we have about a zillion mutual friends, but it was a year and a half. Was it about a year and a half ago?
I think it
I
was.
was trying to find a date and I couldn't find it. And I think it was the Ziglar event where was it the Kevin Harrington Secrets of
Yes,
Closing a
that
Sale?
was. It was supposed to be a nice calm day and it turned into a snowstorm
Okay, yeah, it was
the
a
day
weird day.
after.
We were out at
Yeah.
the golf course country club, ended up back at my parents' house in their living room. And I don't know if we had officially met, but it was the first time we talked. And it was just kind of
Yes.
talking about business and life. And yeah, so from that though, I remember, or no, from that story. Since then, let me do this. Since then, you had the Martin Luther King experience of having a dream, right?
That's right.
Because I do love to know the catalyst for people when they have a specific message. And you start off with this, and of course, you and I both have a shared faith-based
Yes.
background and honoring dreams. Of course, as one pastor said, sometimes he doesn't know if it was God or a bad burrito, and it's hard to discern sometimes. But this is one that was. Well, you tell us a story.
I'll tell you, yeah. It was weird. October 8th, 2014, I woke up from a dream. And first of all, I don't read fiction. I don't like fiction. At least you didn't used to. But I had this dream about a future society where people's brains got hacked. And I wrote down the words Elixir Project. I actually spoke it into my phone, just 12 lines of text. And then I went back to bed, and it was a kind of a scary dream. But then when I got up the next day, I thought, is this a dream within a dream? Did I dream about this weird thing happening? But sure enough, I looked at the note on my phone, and it said Elixir Project and human hacking, and everything can be hacked, even the truth. And I just couldn't shake it. And so I wasn't about to write it down. But a few months before, well, actually a few years before that, a guy named Peter came up to me and said, "Hey man, someday you're going to write a fiction book." And I laughed at him because I just don't, that's not my style. Former pastor, now an entrepreneur. I like a lot of nonfiction. But I just couldn't shake it, Kevin, and I just started diving into that whole concept. And the more I looked, the more I saw that this wasn't just fiction. It was actually the near future, that someday our brains could get hacked. And as I began to do more digging, all the pieces came together, and I did release a fiction book in 2016 called Elixir Project. It did well, and yet the moment it came out, people said, you need to turn this into a nonfiction book because people are literally getting their dreams hacked. And sure enough, we just saw The Social Dilemma come out. And I don't know if you saw that,
I
but
did. I did a week ago,
oh
literally.
my gosh.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you talk about relevant and timely. It's here. It's no longer fiction.
Well,
It's
and that's what I
here.
want to hit now. So I was telling this story. I thought it was since you and I were together that you had this dream. It wasn't. You say back in
It was a
2014.
lot of years ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
because doing the timeline, then it's since then that you've got some of the things that stood out to me. You've got Cal Newport, who I had
Yeah.
on, I don't know, a year ago or so on digital minimalism, and he's talking about
Yes.
kind of this, attention society. Of course,
Yes.
Simon Sinek has knocked it out of the park with his videos on millennials and the dopamine addiction and whatnot. I did with my kids, or some of them. We just watched Social Dilemma because everybody kept telling me you've got to see that, and that was this year, 2020. And if somebody's here and doesn't know, it's a docudrama, but just intriguing. However, now I've known of you, and I would have had you on here anyways. But what really caught my attention about you and this message of Unhackable is, of course, you go into talking about those issues that are
Yes.
in there. But you got me because you hit on what I align with you, and saying, what are the consequences? There's lots, but what's a primary one? It is stealing our dreams, which
Yes.
is, and this is which you pulled out, which again is a soapbox mind, which is where our happiness comes from. So why do we have the rampant apathy that we have right now in the forms of depression and despair and
Yes.
medicating and even suicide? And I would say we are letting ourselves get hacked from the things that give us purpose. And I just had not seen it. It's kind of like all the pieces were out there, and you put it in a book.
I'll
Which,
tell you what.
thank you. Yeah.
Yes. No, I'll tell you what, Kevin, this book, listen, I've written a lot of books. This book is by far, I mean, it's catching on, and it's only been out for, we've already done 7,000 copies in the first week of pre-sales, and I'll tell you why it's catching on. I start the book, and I'm glad for the Ziglar audience because, you know, I do share a faith background too, but I start out with the book that says, listen, how are we supposed to be created? And we were created in God's image, and his first act was creation. So we were created to co-create. And then I did some digging, and we said a word, you know, as kids, a lot of us, we said the word abracadabra.
Mm-hmm.
And most people just think, oh, it means something magical is going to happen. Well, once you do the digging, the etymology is I create as I speak, or it came to pass as it was spoken. And that's pretty cool, first of all, because it gives credence to the fact that, maybe we're supposed to have this dream and do, ideate and implement, and maybe this gap isn't supposed to be so big, but we make it so big.
Mm-hmm.
But then as you do some more digging, the word abracadabra, it literally is made up of 3 words in Hebrew. And of course, those who know the scriptures know Abba means father. So abracadabra literally means Father, Son, Spirit.
Did not know that.
Is that nuts?
That is
And
nuts.
and a lot of theologians believe that that was God's first word, abracadabra. Let there be light. Boom, there was light. But the problem is that as humans, we now have this massive gap between dreaming and doing. And the gap is only spreading. And it's spreading because we get hacked by all the distractions. Human knowledge used to double once every 1,000 years. And today it doubles every 12 hours.
Well, you have, and I had it written down. It's like page 120 or something. I should have marked it 121, something like that. And you talk about some of the stats just regarding phones. And again, I know, people are hearing, I assume at least, I know I'm in a certain segment of the demographic of, what we call it, of aspiring people in personal development and self-help. But, I think it's hard for anybody not to have heard some stats about, yeah, we use our smartphones too much. We're a little like, yeah, but when you really look at some of the stats that you lined out there, and I think for all of us, if literally everybody listening right now, who's probably listening on a smartphone, God bless you, for listening to the show, but to think about, can you do without it for a day?
Yeah.
What does that feel like? Yeah.
People would rather, think about this, people would rather give up sex than have a smartphone. I mean, that procreation.
Which may just say something about their sex life.
Right.
That's another show. Right?
It could. That is another show. But one of our basic human desires is, eat, sleep, procreate. So, I mean, we're literally reshaping humanity's desires. And it's impossible to not be in tech. I mean, to say, well, let's just go without tech. It's how you schedule. It's how you bank. I mean, it's how you do life. It's human relationships. So the average person touches, clicks, swipes, taps their smartphone. D-Scout gives a survey 2,600 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. And the average person is on 5 hours of screens. And that would be bad if it was just 5 straight hours, but it's not. It's 5 hours of short bursts. So your gentleman named Cal Newport that you mentioned, talks about distracted work versus deep work. We literally are doing short 30-second bursts. Check this, reply to that text. And as a result, our entire day is hacked because studies have shown that most people focus 11 minutes a day, meaning that when you're on a topic, you do get hacked. Notification, beep. Even if your phone is in the room face down, it is psychologically draining because you're wondering, just like a slot machine, did anybody ping me? And so you leave attention residue. It's called attention residue. It's not multitasking. You can't do 2 cognitive things at the same time. It's switch tasking. And as we do switch tasking, we leave a little attention there, a little there, a little there. And this is why at the end of the day, we literally use words like I'm drained,
Yeah.
I'm going on fumes, my tank is empty. We use all these terms that describe that depletion.
Well, and when you talk about phones, of course, the first thing I'm used to people doing is go, well, I use mine for GPS. You know, for me, I'm listening to music all day long.
Yes.
So, well, but though most of the time I'm sitting in front of a desktop and I listen on that. But as soon as I mean, when I jump in the car, my Spotify connects to the Bluetooth and starts playing wherever it was on the playlist. By the
Wow.
way, I absolutely adore that. So, you know, with the kids though, we used to talk about screens, screen time, screen time. And they go, well, I work there. I've got one kid who's writing, literally writing
Yes.
stuff, and that's, you know, huge value. So I've taken, so, okay, we're talking about
Yes.
entertainment, non-necessity. So if you're using it for GPS or your phone or your fitness app, which I use that as well, man, I love that stuff. Just, yeah, like you talk about, my business exists the way that it does because of tech. God bless it. But that's outside. If I take that and separate that from the needless, mindless entertainment of social media, of the next, notification. And I think it was after talking to Michael Hyatt. What is the book that he, Focus? Was that his
Yeah,
book?
he did Free to Focus.
Free to Focus. And he talked about removing everything. And I did. I removed all social media because I think I had maybe Instagram or something on there,
Sure.
which, you know, I love looking at the wood projects and the sports stuff, but then you just blow time. So I took it all off and decided to become the one guy in the Starbucks line, not on my phone. And you feel just socially
Alone.
stupid. Yeah. You feel
Yes,
like I'm the least important person on planet Earth, apparently, because I'm not looking at my screen, and it's difficult
it
because
is.
of the
It is.
culture we live in.
It's literally shaped the way we do human relationships. There's a few terms, Kevin, that are fascinating. There's this term called fubbing, and
I didn't know that till I read your book. Yeah.
yes, yes. I mean, we've all heard of snubbing. You know, you snub somebody or something like that. You don't give them attention. But fubbing is where you're literally in a human relationship, whether we're talking on Zoom, and it could happen where I'm literally, you know, looking over here, and you know I am. But it's also when
No,
people are.
what'd you say, Chris?
That's
Good. For
that
those on the video, I was
was
looking at
good.
my phone. Yeah, keep going.
Oh, that was so good. Um, but you know, with phones, it absolutely happens,
Yeah,
and it's a new term. There's another term very interesting called digifrenia. I don't know if you got to that part of the book.
I did. No, I wrote down. If I scroll down here, I've got the definition of. I'll tell you, so you know that I read your book that depth.
Hey, that is
Being
good.
in two places at one time, in a sense, having
Yes.
your online world and your digital self, I
Yes.
guess. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, like
I hadn't heard that.
in years past, it would be, "Hey kids, I'm on the phone, don't bug me." In other words, I'm on the phone, I can't be there. You know, when we grew up, that's what we used to say, "Don't bug me, kids, I'm on the phone." Well, now you're on Instagram and you exist. You're on Twitter and you exist. You're on LinkedIn and you exist. You're on all these platforms as a person.
Yeah.
And so there's this psychological stress for a number of reasons. Number one, has anyone replied to me? You know, because I'm not replying back. So therefore, I'm distant from them. The other thing is, am I congruent with what I'm saying? And maybe this isn't as important for adults, but young people are, did I say what I said over here? You know, we used to
Uh,
lie maybe and say, "Hey, mom, I'm going over to Jimmy's," and we'd go out and whatever, hang out for pizza or something. Now it's like, did I say the right thing over here and over here? Because mom can watch me. I mean, it literally has changed humanity.
Well, and that's where I'm going to come back to my kids because they're such a muse for me. I got a house full of kids always, you know,
Yes.
and we've talked about it. And my muses are a 14 and 15-year-old boys that I've got. So, you know, middle high school now, but
Oh,
they're
yeah.
in their prime time for dealing with this. And we talk about the culture that they're living in. They're very aware of it because they've got friends living like that. But as we talk about screen time, and again, I'm going to say mostly just the entertainment. What I finally said to them, what occurred to me, I said, you know, guys, sometimes it's not that I am so concerned about the time that you're spending doing that. I mean, as a kid, of course, we had, and you mentioned this in the book, we had three TV stations. There's
That's right.
plenty of night when I watched, you know, the Dukes of Hazzard and the A
Oh,
Team
yeah.
and that
MacGyver.
MacGyver, praise God. Well, that was educational. Come on.
There you go.
But you know, 3 hours would pass. So it's not that I'm just looking at the time, but I'm looking at what are you not doing. And there was a meme recently that I sent to the family, and I said, man, this is what weighs on me, guys, just to be honest. And it said something to the effect of, there are so many painters out there who will never pick up a paintbrush. There's so many athletes who will never get out on the field, and yada, yada, because instead they don't have that boredom that pushes them towards that. They can just get on a text or get on a device and get that instant gratification. Oh, so guys, that's what pains me. What are you,
Yes.
what are you doing instead of picking up the guitar over there, picking up the book, picking up pen and paper, drawing something, or whatever that may be, learning something? And so they get it. So we're working on it. So there's, it's not, it's making
You're so
progress,
right.
but
I
gosh,
reminds me of a Pascal quote that says,
yes.
remember that one? All
Oh, I
of
love
the
it. Yeah.
evil results from his inability to sit quietly in a room by himself, because if he did, he would be forced to deal with the boredom and find a way out. It sounds like you like the quote.
Oh my God. I think it even says to stay alone in a room for 15 minutes, or at least that's what I paraphrase. I
Yeah.
should think about that short of a time, and we don't have to have that boredom. So the kids will not say, I'm bored anymore, because they know that my response is awesome. Awesome. And I think that came again from Hyatt or maybe that was Cal Newport that talked
Okay.
about that in a sense. Well, again, coming back to, so here's this problem,
Hmm.
but I hear the problem talked about more than I do what the consequences of the problem are. And again, that's what drew me to you in this message and us talking again today, because I am very tuned in to what my experience is, that out there in the culture, we have more people. It's easy to talk about kids because they're more acute, but we have more people our age and older who are dealing with, I'm just going to use apathy. Again, it comes in a lot of forms, but it's
Yeah.
apathy, it's a purposelessness that I believe there's what you talked about. What's the culprit? Here we have something that's distracting us away from what? Because if some people say, well, what would I be doing otherwise? Well, you might have an idea or a purpose or a
Yes.
burden I had a couple people, John O'Leary, you probably know John, and Sam Collier, both within the span of a few weeks, talked about purpose, and they phrased it in the aspect of, what is that thing that breaks your heart? And I
Mm,
thought, I don't know that people even know these days. And you talked about that. You said that it keeps them from pursuing their ideas. And I thought, but are they even having an idea to pursue?
yes.
I find more and more people that they don't even know. And why would they? They're entertained
Yeah.
non-stop.
Yeah. And really what it does is it numbs us, right? It
Mhm.
numbs us to all kinds of things. It numbs us to pain. It
Yeah.
numbs us to dreams, numbs us from relationships. Because think about it. In the past, you get in a fight and you'd have to sit there and think about, like, man, was I a jerk? Or maybe now you just jump right in and get edified with social media. And I say that social media is really a tool, and all tech. What scares me most is that, and this gets into unhackable too, it's now thought influencing technology. So it's one thing when you're just amused, and the word you might know, but it is not, and muse is thought. So to not think is amusement. That's one form of evil, I guess you'd say. But what gets crazier is in the social dilemma, where they actually say, no, we're designing the apps so you become an addict. In other words, we've all had that app where it shows when we send a message, and then the dot dot dot, and it shows that our friend is typing back.
And I'll sit there and wait for it.
That is
Yeah,
100% so that you keep watching the screen.
it works well.
And it does work well. And the social dilemma, that's why it's funny. I tried to get this book out 4 years ago, but I got hacked, right? I myself am running a global business, and I kept getting distracted. And you could even use serving people as getting hacked. You can become just so fixated on others that you don't do the tough work on yourself. So anything can be a hack. And Kevin, maybe it's appropriate now to even tell people that a hack is literally when an unauthorized access of a computer or system. And so when I say we get hacked as humans, you think back to biology class, circulatory system, respiratory system, and our brains are like supercomputers. So in a true way, we as humans can literally get hacked.
I had that definition right out of your book. Yeah, hacking means someone or something gain unauthorized access to a system or a computer, which is interesting because most of these things, we're talking about social media or even talking about purchasing sites like an Amazon. My first thought was, well, it wasn't unauthorized. I actually went in there voluntarily, but they then had, I didn't authorize necessarily this stuff to happen. And there's also the balance because, so I'm really getting into some of the wearable devices
Yeah.
for health tracking. Yeah.
Yeah.
For health tracking, sleep tracking, whatever. So I appreciate it for that, for my exercise tracking out in the woods and stuff. It's really neat. And I'm looking into the biometrics more and yada yada. So I like that. So I'm looking at getting an upgraded one. And of course, what does Amazon do and Facebook and whatever I typed it in, they're just feeding me this stuff, which on
Oh
one
yeah.
hand, I would think, okay, that's not all bad. Kind of like when you watch a movie you like or read a book that you like, and it says, hey, people who like that, like this. I've gotten some great books and movies from those
Yes.
types of things. But to realize how much am I exposing myself to that, and how much is it influencing me? And that's where the social dilemma, and then even further, your book really just brings it to light in my awareness to go, how much of this purchasing, how much of my time, how much of my attention, my decisions are being influenced. And without that, I would have more time. I'd have more
Yes.
ideas. I'd probably have more money. And it's just, I think we can't, well, obviously that's what the book is. I mean, we're ramping this up to the point now where I'm questioning, we all think that we make our decisions for a rational reason.
Yes. Oh yeah. I love two quotes in the book. One is, well, actually the movie, The Social Dilemma. One is, the only industry where the customers are called users
Yeah.
is illegal drugs and software.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Snapped a picture of that. And then where there is no product, you are the product. And these things are interesting, but I mean, you see it on Facebook. There's a meme on Facebook that says, a guy says to his wife, shh, don't talk so loud. Amazon might hear us.
Mm-hmm.
She laughed. I laughed. Alexa laughed.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like today, it's no joke. And when I wrote the fiction book, Elixir Project, I mean, it was a near future book, and it says everything can be hacked, even the truth. This came out in 2016. People thought it was sci-fi. And they're like, oh, that'd be crazy that, our brains would get hacked someday. Well, today, you just say something about a vacuum cleaner. You get up in the morning and it's on your screen. So it is very interesting the how the world has shifted.
That I've heard people, it hasn't been as much recently because I think people have caught on a little bit, but that use the, Alexa and the whatever.
Yes.
I don't, it's not, I don't like things that talk to me and make noise. It's
Yes, there you
not
go.
from any righteous thing necessarily, but I don't, the people who say, oh my gosh, I was just talking about something. And the next thing I know, I'm on Facebook and here's an ad,
Yes.
for it to look at, yeah, we are selling our attention and making these companies money with our opt-in decisions here. And then again, and I'm going to keep coming back to it, that the cost, because I just haven't thought about it in the way that you showcased it. It makes complete sense, but I had not tangibly thought about it. I even thought, even saying it to my kids, I'm concerned about what you're not doing. As much as the screen's entertainment, what are you not doing, these things? But to think about, it's our very ideas, which is our purpose. And as you talk about, and you pulled out again something that is a big shining light for me, that our happiness. And I first read it, I think it was Tony Robbins who just talked about it, and he probably took it from somebody else, I have no idea, but
Sure.
you said the happiest people statistically are those making positive progress in their lives. He didn't even say what positive progress towards saving the world or doing better in your weekly basketball game or poker or whatever.
Yes.
It's just positive progress. That's what gives us happiness. And we don't get that through these online little dopamine hits. It's not, it's just it's just a happy hit. It's not progress. I can get a
No,
happy hit from M&Ms. I get progress from losing weight and gaining muscle. Very different.
absolutely. I say in the book that the Disney slogan, and I say that the old Disney slogan was the happiest place on earth, and the new one is the place where dreams come true, or
Wow.
vice versa. And I say, which one is it? And it's both, right? The happiest people are those who see their dreams come true. So you're absolutely right, which means the unhappiest people are those who don't see progress, or those who don't see their dreams come true, which is why all the video games are hardwired to show progress. And all of a sudden, you're now in a virtual world, and you have skins and you have these badges that show progress. But in reality, when the computer shut off or the online shopping is off, so is your life, so is your brain. And so it is, we are hardwired addicted. But what I love about Unhackable, we don't just stop there. It actually gives you a solution.
Well, and that's what I want to get into, but I do want to just add to the gravity of what you wrote. It was somewhere, it was right close to a year ago, that on a Saturday morning, I often will write to my older kids, my adult kids, and my teens, and I'll write something. And what hit me most was, call it dreams, call it goals, call it your wants. I said the most important thing I would hope for you guys is to just stop and figure out what you really want. I wish I had done that more clearly,
Mm.
figure that out. And that's the impetus for a book deal that I will probably sign next week.
Oh, that is so good, man. I'm happy. Well, let me know when it comes out. I want to
Thank
promote it.
you.
What is it about, or is it a secret?
I'll tell you offline. How's that?
Okay, we'll do it
It's a
offline.
little early, but it's around Motive, which is my new podcast that I
It's
haven't
so
even
good.
officially launched as well. But again, it comes to what you're talking about, the dreams. And that was my concern for my kids is, are they going to hone in on what it is they care about, what it is they want, the direction that they really want to go. And after all these years in personal development and self-help, that's what I most desire
Mm.
for them to understand. Even unto God and to faith, I see a lot of people who are tuned into God and faith. They want to serve and they have no idea what they're about or why. And
Yeah,
so,
I love the quote. Saint Irenaeus said, "The glory of God is a man or woman fully alive."
fully alive. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
that is beautiful. So I'm tracking with you. So yeah, that is, you're in this book. Again, you're not just pointing out the problem of, hey, we have this distraction culture, this attention uh, distracting culture, but what do we do to be unhackable?
Yes,
Which is just that, who doesn't want to be that? I mean, we all want to watch a superhero movie where they're unstoppable, right? Do we
yes,
want to be pawns, minions in this world, letting ourselves be distracted, manipulated, persuaded along, or do we want to be in charge of our own destiny in essence? And that's where you're saying, okay, here's the recipe in essence on how
yes,
to do that. That's what we need.
absolutely,
That's what we need.
absolutely.
Well, so to do that, I mean, your first, not chapter, but your first part, I guess. You have, what is it, 5 or 6 parts? Five?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's
Yeah,
5 parts, and there's
5 parts.
no chapters on purpose. We specifically did 30 daily
Yeah,
missions.
yeah, which I appreciate. Well, that first one, though, unveiling. And as I
Yes.
looked through that, I felt what it kind of culminated for me was, we are being hacked and distracted from our dreams, which is where our happiness lies. So it was kind of it felt to me kind of a workshop in, okay, let's become aware. Let's get our eyes open to what's really happening and where we are amongst that. And you said, you talked about this is what's happening, the hacking, smartphones. You listed out smartphones, multitasking, social media, streaming videos, advertisement, decision fatigue. And then you pull out the culprit and you talk about some things that this hacking is a culprit. But then again, I love where you hit on ultimately what's the biggest culprit?
Me.
Me. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we love to say, oh, the pandemic, man, that hacked my 2020, and
Mm-hmm.
racism, that was my biggest hack. It's like, you know what? Nope, it's me. And in the book, I talk about a model, and this is out there. This isn't my original, but it's that victims believe that the world happens to them. So victims lie in bed, blame, excuses, and denial. And that was me for a lot of years. And I think it's the temptation for all of us, you know. We say, oh, look what Trump, or look what Biden, or look what
Sure.
the Congress did, or, you know, whoever it is. But the point is that I'm responsible, and it's my eyes, it's my ears, it's my mind, and you got to own that. And so then we talk about victors, and victors have an approach that says, I happen to the world, and they put their oar in the water and move forward. Ownership, accountability, and responsibility. So, Kevin, on a practical daily level, I even take this down to my schedule. And if I have to go to the doctor's office, I don't just show up at the doctor's office and say, I wonder what the doctor's office has for me. Oh, there's Phil Donahue on the TV, and there's Time Magazine on the counter, and there's a talk show radio in the airways. That's letting the world happen to me. Instead, man, I show up and I say, hey, what is my boon? Now, but that sounds crazy, but in the book, you know that we talk about the boon is really the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is what every movie, every book is based on. But it's where the hero leaves the ordinary world, goes to the supernatural world, and achieves the holy grail, the elixir, their dream, essentially what you're saying for your kids. And the way that they are going to get that boon, which is their greatest ache, their truest longing, their deepest desire, is to be unhackable. But you're right. Some people are so dialed in, we don't even know what our boon is.
Well, and you, again, these things that we are all voluntarily engaging in, and you and I are old enough to remember when none of this existed,
Yep.
and we had three channels, and you just went outside, or you built something, or
Yes.
you drew something, or played a game, or just went and walked around the neighborhood, whatever, and discovered things and experienced things. And yet now we are voluntarily opting into these things, selling our time, in essence, giving away our time. And the other thing that you wrote in there that I pulled out of it in this first section was being a consumer versus a creator.
Yes.
And that hit me because I so often think of was it Roosevelt who wrote The Man in the Arena?
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Yes.
and talked about, but I took from that, how much am I being a spectator versus a participant? And you
Yes.
said consumer versus a creator. How much am I just there as a willing consumer, selling my time to these companies, and where am I stepping out of that and being a creator? And again, I think that's the impetus, or the crux of your book, is that we are giving away our creatorship
Yes.
to be consumers, and it's making us miserable. I think that's
It
the other thing.
is.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is. I mean, no judgment on a dude, but I just saw this weekend, I was speaking at an event, and I was connecting with the sound guy, you know, and he was helping out. And I said, hey, man, listen, you've been here all day. And I said, I just want to give you a copy of my book. He said, oh, I haven't read a book since sophomore year of high school. And he said it like a badge of honor. And I'm thinking, wow, you know, and there's no judgment, but at the same point, he hasn't grown. Like, he's not having stimulate. Another conversation, two guys at the grocery store bagging my groceries. Hey man, do you know anything that I can watch on Netflix? I watch everything that comes out. I watched 20 hours straight one day, and I'm saddened because, I mean, you go into a zombified state, and it's anesthetizing the pain.
Yeah, I see those things of passing the time. People talk about passing the time or killing time. Seriously,
Yeah.
that's, and I'll see that on reviews I mean, I love a good show, a good movie, something redeeming.
Yeah.
And when I see that, it was okay to pass 2 hours. I mean, that's what kills me. If
Oh
I
yeah.
give 2 hours or an hour and a half, or what seems like
Of
the
your
movies is
life.
able 2 hours of my life, and I come out of it and think I didn't get anything. I
Yeah.
just passed the time when I could have accomplished. And again, and this is not to point fingers at. I mean, I like to be entertained as much as
Sure.
anyone. My question is, how much of my time am I
There you
giving away
go.
to entertainment? And what your point is amongst most of this so-called entertainment, especially social media, we are being led. It's not
Yeah.
benign. And I
Yeah.
almost want to, yeah, go ahead.
Well, why does Netflix start a new episode? I mean, because they know you are going to sit there. You know, that's where the social dilemma and unhackable really starts speaking. Is it's designed like a slot machine, your phone with the scroll. I mean, this is where the ethics starts getting really shady. And it's not
Yeah.
innocent and this and that. I mean, it's literally designed to hack you.
Well, even that, even me talking about, okay, if I'm looking for a watch and then Amazon comes and shows me, different ones, that can seem like a service, but I got to realize they are there to get my money. That is their sole purpose. They have no altruistic initiative here. And they may not be bad guys either. It's a business. It's got
Sure.
shareholders and that's their job. If you've got, if you're working for a business that has shareholders specifically, you can be sure that their primary reason is to get your money, and that's not bad. It's not necessarily their fault. Even go to Social Dilemma, Kary, and I watched that with my kids, and we turn it off, and I said, okay, I do get it. I struggled a little bit with the altruistic, flag waving of, so we all need to do what's right. I think those companies are doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
We're the ones
Yeah.
opting in. It's back to what you said.
Absolutely.
It's
It's
just on us.
victims.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are absolutely engaging in this. I mean, that's why apps come preloaded with push notifications. So you put it this way, though, Kevin. I think you literally have to be intentional not to get hacked. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
my
Like
gosh. Yes.
it used to be, oh, I might have to choose. Now, if you tell your kids, hey, no screens, you're literally telling them no friends.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, so we have to learn how to navigate technology. I'm not nothing against Cal Newport. I think he's fantastic, but I'm more of a let's use technology, but within parameters, I guess.
I agree. I almost hit that switch and go, you know what? I'm going to go to a dumb phone, a little flip phone. Though I admitted, not I know there's other options too, but I am so stuck on my Spotify, to my smartphone. It was hard to do, but I like the concept. Well, going to then your second part of the book, which
Yeah.
you titled Flawless Idea Anatomy. And
Hmm.
in that, I saw you because we're talking about all this. But again, my kids as a muse, the question with them would be to do what? And I'm saying this, my kids are rock stars and the stuff they're doing, but I always want bettering from them. And we
Sure.
talk about it. And if nothing else, we talk about what they're dealing with amongst their peers as well. But saying, okay, but why not? So for the average person, why not do that? And we're saying, because you're not pursuing your ideas, dreams. Okay, kind of the chicken or the egg, but in this, you're saying on this section, you need to create and clarify your primary goals and purpose and believe in them. And you talk about, I don't know if you use the word, but being able to see them, to envision them. You say,
Yes.
this is your, it's really, you didn't say it this way, but in a sense, this is your salvation. Otherwise, why not? Why not go
Yeah.
with the flow? Why not let your time all be taken for the rest of your life if you don't have this? So it's really the only solution. It's the only reason not to.
It is. We talk about the boon, but
Yeah.
we also talk about how our brains are wired with something called first creation and second creation. So no squirrel is out there on a tree thinking, someday I want to be a beaver, right?
Right.
I mean, a squirrel is just wired to be an animal. And yet humans were created in the image of God. And one of the things is that we can envision the future. I mean, memory works forwards and backwards. We always think memory works backwards. That's recall. What did I do yesterday? But you can remember your future. For an example, you got a test coming up. You start getting anxious. Your heart starts palpitating or palpitating. You start getting nerves. You're thinking of the future, but in a negative way we call worry. Well, guess what? We can imagine the future, but in a positive way. And when we do that, this gets a little woo woo, but hang with me. I talk about how thoughts are made, how thoughts are things, and thoughts are made up of matter, and how matter has electrons and protons and neutrons. So think about this. We know from Einstein that atoms can be at two places, exist. I mean, we see this with quantum mechanics. So I tell people, Why can't you think a thought and then it exists somewhere in the universe? Now, again, that sounds a little weird until you look at scripture, and Jesus is healing the centurion, right? The centurion says, hey, come heal my servant. And Jesus says, okay, I'll go with you. And the centurion says, no, just say the word and he'll be healed. And it says, Jesus said, let him be healed. And he was healed. In other words, abracadabra. I mean,
Yeah.
I create as I speak. So all I want people to realize is everything they're looking at right now in their room, microphone, lamp, was created twice. Once in the mind of the inventor, and then when it manifested in physical space. And that's the same way our dreams work. So I tell people when they have a dream, I'm like, hey, you've already created it once in your mind. Now just close the gap between dreaming and doing. Be unhackable.
It makes me think of the self-fulfilled prophecy that we all end up being. We become what we expect. It makes me think of mountain biking. So I'm an avid mountain biker. And when you're
Yes.
flying down, especially out here in Colorado, some mountainside with a 1 foot wide little section to ride, you don't look down in the crevice with the jagged rocks, because wherever you look, that's pretty much where you're going to go. So my self-fulfilled prophecy is ahead of me staying on the trail at Mach 10.
That is nuts. I've seen some of those videos. I knew your dad told me that you're into that. That would be a little bit jolting for me.
You know, rabbit trail off that, I loathe and will not watch them.
Really?
The videos, people send them to me all the time, so they think I'll love them. I just what you started talking about, the moment my eye hits it, my heart rate increases, my adrenaline flows, and I don't like watching it. I don't, even on road cycling, which I used to do, I don't like watching the races from the sidelines. The guys going through the corner at 30 miles an hour on those super skinny wheels. It's mortifying. So I don't like watching it. Doing it's a totally different thing. Doing it when I'm on it and I'm in control, it's a total joy. No fear for the most part. I try to keep it one notch down of where I'm really fearful. But it's an interesting thing on that, because that's what I was thinking about when you talked about how we can think about those things and feel those in a sense. Absolutely. But then again, coming back to, what is the antidote? That's just what I want people to hear. So what is the antidote for us giving our attention to all these things, being drawn to these, taking the little shallow dopamine hits over and over and over, just letting ourselves be distracted? What is the antidote? It is having something that we care about, something to make progress for. So to me, it's really kind of a different light on goals. I mean, Ziglar was built on goals. Have a goal, do something great. And this is saying, man, you've got to. It's your lifeline. Otherwise, you're toast.
Exactly. Otherwise, you don't even have to choose to be hacked. Hacking is going to choose you.
That's great. That's your only choice, is to choose not to. Otherwise, you're done. It's already happening.
The world is conspired right now to hack your attention. I mean, it is. You just go walk down Times Square and tell me you're not distracted. Oh my gosh. Well, guess what? Times Square is no longer a place. It's called your computer, and we each have one, or your smartphone. So again, it's not the enemy, but you better have a filter. And that's exactly what we talk about in the book.
Okay, well, having a filter, I want to hit on that. And I want folks to hear this, and I do this habitually. This isn't a book review, and I'm going to go through the whole thing. Go get the book. This is a study thing for you guys to work through. But, part 1, unveiling. Part 2, idea, flawless idea anatomy. Part 3, deliberate magnetic focus. 4 is optimal human performance. And 5 is boom, which you talked about. And this is a book, and I know I say this sometimes I say it more emphatically than others. This is not a message to hear. This is not a story to read. This is something to work through. If you're going to get the benefit, work through it, which again, that's why you've got the free assessment. Thank you. Which that'll be in the intro, and I'll tell people, again, the URL is
unhackableBook.com. And for the person who thinks, oh, I'm not getting hacked. Listen, the goal to take the assessment is not to shame you. It's to just basically say, you know what? Just like you go to the doctor, the only way you're going to get healthy is for them to show you what your numbers are.
Yeah. So I wanted to give people that. Yeah, go find the book there. Of course, they can find it wherever they get their books if they want to. But I wanted to anchor this with somewhat of what jumped out at me in this third section, deliberate magnetic focus, because you talked about it a little bit earlier, and we just did now. We said you're going to have to choose to be unhackable. You're going to have to
Mhm.
choose to disengage from these things, to not give your time away. Otherwise, it is already happening. It will continue to. So really what I took out of the third section of the book, Deliberate Magnetic Focus, was intentionality. And in budgeting keep coming to mind. I have to budget my time, just like I talked to the kids. How much of your time are you going to give to entertainment? It's great. I love entertainment. I love being led along in a story, getting a little brain break or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
That's fine. I'm only going to allow it a certain amount of time because of the other things I want to do. So in 3, you talk about that, and you said, I think you mentioned the doctor's office or something like that, that you're not going to go
Yeah.
in there and let the
Yes.
TV or the magazines, you're going to go in there. You actually talk about this. You usually have your headphones and your laptop, and you're going to do
Yes.
something intentional.
Exactly. Yeah, just like I use the illustration of going down to the beach. You can go down to the beach and get burned by the sun for some of us in about 3 hours. Or you can have the same sun, the same skin, but have a magnifying glass. And because of the way that the sun is amplified, you can burn a hole right through your skin. It's the same way with our attention and our focus. We all have this thing called laser focus. The problem is that we diffuse it. We diffuse our focus with all these distractions. So in the book, I talk about 3 focus filters: urgency,
Mhm.
agency, and energy. And that first one with urgency, we can all remember back to school when we would get all these assignments on day 1. Well, guess when we would do them? We'd usually do them the day before. Why? Because of the deadline. And the law of diminishing intent, which Jim Rohn came up with, but Zig probably, who knows, came up with it too. But it was that the longer we wait to do something, the less likely we will ever do it. In other words, you drift, your focus drifts. So we talk about, does your boon or idea or dream have a deadline? And if it doesn't, I mean, Kevin, you're writing a book. If you didn't have a deadline, you would polish that thing for the rest of your life.
It's one of the reasons I'm working with, publisher and a team and all the stuff that you know more about than I do, is
Mhm.
some of that. I have enough other things going on that I continually spend more money on hiring more people to delegate more things. And ultimately what I want them to do, and I tell them this, you're there to manage me.
There you
I
go.
need management. I am not a good manager. I need management. So deadlines, we have to artificially create those
Yes.
for me to produce. And gosh, we know this in business. I talked about it recently on a show that sometimes I get tired of here's my latest electronic product and it's only available till Friday. And that's a totally artificially manifested deadline.
Right.
But it's actually a service. It's not just a gimmick, it's a service, because otherwise people won't make a decision. Back to you, decision fatigue. We're all looking for reasons not to make decisions and
Yes.
let our time be taken away. We need the so urgency, agency, and energy. I have those written down because you mentioned agency, creating the environment, not
Yes.
accepting what is given to us.
Yeah. I mean, agency means that you take back the inputs that come into you. And that's rare. I mean, listen, I was flying a few weeks ago, and the woman in front of me was playing a game on her phone, and it was annoying the junk out of me because it was
Mhm.
like beep, ding, beep. And if it was one of my kids, I would have said, "Hey, kids, I'm trying to focus." But she was obviously a stranger. The reason why it kept bugging me is just because I'm susceptible like anybody else.
Yeah.
And I tried to focus, and it distracted focus. So what did I do? I popped in my AirPods, put on a soundtrack, and what I did is I reclaimed my agency. And that's literally what you need to do. In the book, I give other illustrations. Commercials. Hey, I come from Ohio. I like watching a Buckeye game. Well, a good portion of the Buckeye game is just advertisement. It's them literally saying, "Here's the thoughts we want you to think," and then you say, "Well, get TiVo." Absolutely. Fast forward. So we mute the commercials. We fast forward the commercials. It's not that I'm all worried about it, but I don't want other people to tell me what to think.
Well, and back to your aspect of, if we're not controlling the time and the input today, it is being controlled for us. And again, it just didn't exist. And I think that's, with anything, we just kind of fall into the norm. And the
Oh yeah.
norm, as you said, the norm is changing at a more rapid rate now than ever. Back when we were kids, it just, if you didn't tune into the TV or the radio, ain't nothing happening to you. And there's nothing to happen to you. You got to go happen it. And today,
Today
we can't get
it's
away from it.
breaking news. Like
Yeah.
breaking news, someone crossed the road,
Yeah.
We have 35,000 decisions today that we have to make. And let me tell you what, 100 years ago, it wasn't even close. So the fact is we think options are great until you go to the Cheesecake Factory and the menu's 50 pages long and it actually is taxing on your attention. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, well, and they talked about this in Social Dilemma, but I see this with people like you, Kary, and with pretty much everybody I have on this show. Somebody who has had a dream, had an idea, done something with it, succeeded with it, is euphoric in the achievement and the progress of it. And they are I hear more and more and more and more, they're sequestering themselves, they're secluding themselves, they're getting rid of their smartphone, or, like Hyatt talked about, getting rid of everything off of it. They leave it downstairs. They never take it in the bedroom. We turn our Wi-Fi off at night. We close down everything at about 9:00.
That's cool.
We close it down, but it's just, again, it's to save all of us from that thing.
From ourselves.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. From ourselves. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's so dramatic. I mean, you do then talk about, again, the energy, and you talk about managing that. And well, this is what I took out of it, of budgeting it. And that I kept coming back to that word budget. out of this, of saying, all these things. Again, you're not saying this, and I appreciate that. You didn't say throw away your phone, throw away your computer.
No, not at all.
You said
not at all. You have to use it. I mean, we live in a world today where you have to use technology. I mean, sure, are there people who totally ditch it? Yeah. But I tell people that it's navigating it. Okay. So with energy, I talk about open windows. And the fact is that many of us have these open windows, just like a computer. You have windows on your browser. What does it do? It slows down the computer because it's taking up RAM. So in our lives, what's taking up energy? Open windows, thinking, I never called that person back. I got to do that. Crud, I didn't do that today. And what happens is your subconscious grinds on all these open windows. So what I do is an exercise where I say, write down all your open windows, everything. I'm talking literally everything that is an unfinished thing, task, whatever. Even little things like, hey, Kevin, we should do lunch sometime. Oh, yeah, we should. That's an open window because your subconscious is grinding on it. So you write it all down, then you write 3 columns. And I encourage people to do this with Post-it notes and put it on the wall and put do, dump, or delegate. And literally start filtering these things into those categories. And I'll tell you what, making those decisions will free up RAM space. There was one gentleman, Jack Canfield, nothing against him, but he used to say, or delay. No way. Delay means hack. So you don't want to have any delay. It's either do, dump, or delegate. And that literally will free up your mental space.
Well, again, with every bit that we have talked about the reality of what's happening, and that we are being hacked. And I think that is going to become more and more mainstream, more apparent, at least to a certain demographic, just like everything. Those who are seeking to be aware, it's going to. But what I'm going to point to again, come back to, is what you so brilliantly did in this book, was to say the antidote, the way that we do this, the reason that we do is because our dreams and our ideas, which are the root of our happiness, that is what is at stake. And I feel like that is the thing that we can flat out, this is not opinion, we can look at the stats. We can go to the CDC and the health and wellness, any arena, and you can see the stats in black and white of every pathology that exists, chronic illness, disease, which in there is where we do have apathy and depression and despair and suicide. which are some of the biggest growing
Yes.
pathologies right now. And what is the biggest reason? It's hard for me not to say that this is
Well,
it.
I'll tell you what, you are the first interviewer who really caught that, because let's think back to Viktor Frankl, right? Man's Search for Meaning. The ones who would die in the concentration camp were the ones who had no future.
Yeah.
So what Viktor Frankl would do is he would try to get them to think about their idea or their dream or their future outside the concentration camp. And those were the ones who survived. So Kevin, you're firing me up, man. I like this, how you're catching
You
on.
fired me up. That's why you're here. I mean,
Hey,
and I also appreciate not just a book, but you have done the work here to make this more of a brand. You sent me a T-shirt, man. That's the kind of T-shirt I want. Is
yes.
who looks at it and goes, nah, I'm good with being hacked.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us want that. I mean, who doesn't want to rise to say, no, I am unhackable. I am not at the whim of the culture. And again, I'm going to say it again. I am not one who vilifies corporate
No.
America. Should they have some responsibility? Sure. I mean, I think everybody should. But Facebook is a publicly owned company. Its job is to make money. I don't have to participate. So
Yes.
if I'm irritated that they're stealing my information or manipulating me, opt out.
You're choosing. Yeah.
We can opt out. Now I choose. Now I don't have it on my phone, but when I come to work, I pull it up and I do business on it. I make money from Facebook.
Me
Bottom
too.
line. But
Absolutely.
that's what I use it for. And I know I connect with people. I'm not going to leave it up, but I don't have to.
Right.
So I don't feel like I have a right. Back to what you're talking about, victim. I don't have a right to call foul to them.
Yes.
And I know this is debatable, but I'm gonna err on the side of responsibility.
I'm with you, man.
How do I
Yeah,
cry foul when I opt in?
it's like cigarettes. I mean, oh, well, cigarettes. I mean, listen, if you smoke, whatever. But if I have lung cancer and I'm smoking, I'm the one who's putting it in my mouth. Now, I get it. There's addictions, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about tech addictions.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we are also talking about is eventually, and I know the social dilemma is more about this, I'm more about personal responsibility, but the social dilemma wants to bring regulation back,
Yeah.
because you remember back in the day when we watched Saturday cartoons,
Yeah.
there were certain things that could be shown or not shown during those hours in terms of marketing. Well, just the laws are too archaic. Tech is so cutting edge.
Mm-hmm.
Tech is happening so fast that they just can't keep up. And we saw that back, I don't know how many years ago, when Mark Zuckerberg was in Congress. I mean, they just weren't getting it.
Well, and you've got some things like YouTube, which not long ago did the YouTube for Kids
Yes.
thing, and I know that got some good press, but ultimately, yeah, back on the personal responsibility. My kids only have access if I allow it.
Yes. Oh yeah.
It,
Oh yeah. Today, back in our day, they used to hand us a truck. Today we're handing 1.5-year-olds, iPads. And we're being trained on, think about that, even instant stimulation.
yeah.
We just cannot, like, back to the Pascal quote, we can't sit quietly by ourselves.
Well, and then there's that meme, and I wish I had it in front of me again. But then say, yeah, when we look at our kids, and now we're seeing it in our own lives, and this is just as relevant for the 60-year-old man or woman sitting there,
Yes.
but with our kids to go, how many of them they have it in them to be one of the
Mm.
great painters, one of the great business people, one of the great teachers, one of the great
Cure for cancer.
cure for cancer, the next Mother Teresa, and
Yeah.
we'll never know because they'll never have the opportunity to germinate and grow that thought, that idea, that care, because we can now just spend our time. It made me think of the movie
Matrix.
two of them, Matrix and Wally.
Oh,
Wally, where they're sitting there and they're with their screen, just drinking milkshakes all day, and they don't
there
have
you
to do
go.
anything in real life. But yeah, the Matrix. I when I first saw that, we own it. We own the whole
Oh
series.
yeah.
Watch it every once in a while. I'll watch it just to get a refresher.
Yeah, but when in 1999, when Matrix came out, we said, "Oh, what if that happens someday? Where we're part of this machine."
Yeah.
Tell you what, it's no longer what if. So, but there is hope, and yeah, the fourth part with flow, man, that gets really fun. I don't know if you like that section.
Oh, I like them all. I like them all. But, again, this is one I want folks, you're going to have to work. You're hearing the snippets. And I would say if you resonate with any of this, which I know you do, or you wouldn't be listening to the Ziglar show at all. If you resonate with this, if you nodded your head, you need to work through it. And I would say this, if Kary, if you were giving the books away, I'm happy for you to make $1 million with the book. But if you're giving, I'd say you just need, there are some books that I read and I get the message. It comes through loud and clear and I can go forth with that. Some of them, this is one you've just got to work through. And I kept coming up with you. This is an audit. This is a personal audit
Yes.
of what we're allowing ourselves to unconsciously engage with, willfully, but somewhat unconsciously engage with, and let our time just drip away. And it's
Yeah, I mean,
it's tragic.
my favorite book, probably yours too. It says redeem the
The
time.
time, yeah.
And that means buy back the time. And back to your quote, I love what you said before about killing time. It's not my own, but there's a quote that says, to kill time is to wound eternity.
Wow.
Dang. You know what I'm saying?
That's harsh, man. Again, I am a fan of the book. I hope this show gets the book in a lot of people's hands, that they go and take the assessment. And I'm eager to see where this continues to progress for you as people get a hold of this. I don't personally, speaking of that book that we like called the Bible,
Yes.
mine doesn't end with worldwide utopia.
No.
I hope that this draws the people who have eyes to see and ears to hear over in redeeming the time and
Yes.
renewing their mind daily and finding their ideas and their dreams and their goals that we need, that I need. And from that, I would say, folks, I need you following your dreams, because less and less of people are doing it.
So true.
We need you doing it. Hey, brother, thank you for
having me.
Thank you for following yours and taking that dream, literal dream that you had, and bringing it to fruition. I, for one, am a great beneficiary.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.